Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Chatting with the Reds. This is Friday, October the 28th, 2016. And we're glad to have you with us. We hope that something that's said, something that's done, will enlighten you, will encourage you, and even challenge you to a deeper understanding of the various stereotypical and various obstacles that people with disabilities, those who have ability challenges, challenged by their abilities, have every single day. Hello, my wife's joining us on this, our broadcast for today. This is Friday, the last of the week. We're almost through the end of October. It's hard to believe. We have about 2 more full months to go. And this year, 2016, will have come to an end. I know a lot of you are anticipating the election season finally being over. Remember to vote, though. We want you to vote. It's going to be on Tuesday, November the 8th. November the 8th. Find out. Most of you have internet. If you're watching this, you have a cell phone or internet. We ask that you will go to your internet and check in and go into the browser and see just where your polling place is. Go and vote. Good afternoon, Pastor Moore. God bless you. Glad to have you with us. Good day, Brother Robert. Glad to have you with us as well. We are here today to discuss equity in the job place. Equity in the job place. You know, in 1990, under then President George H.W. Bush, the American with Disabilities Act was signed into law. And this act was supposed to bring the experiences of those who have physical, developmental, and mental challenges on an even keel or an even field with their able-bodied counterparts. Has it been successful? Yes and no. In some areas it has. We now have most of the buses in Philadelphia, most of the buses in most of the largest cities have vehicles that can regulate themselves and manually allow people to go onto the bus who are in wheelchairs. But we have a far way to go. We have a far way to go until we can really say we're on an even playing field. First of all, when you get on a bus, if you're able to get on the bus, because of the attitudes of the bus drivers and also the passengers, sometimes you're not even able to get on. Because either the bus driver doesn't want to stop, the bus driver doesn't want to accommodate you, and the passengers don't want to move. This is a problem. It's a problem in this city. It's a problem in other cities, other towns that have transportation that's accessible to people with physical disabilities. But like I say always, when you have as an identity that you are limited, disadvantaged, and disqualified to do anything, the imagery of that will cause ableism, will cause a sense of unworthiness, will cause an image within the minds of those particularly who are able-bodied that you are not even, I don't know why you're out here. Why are you taking up space? And this is especially true as it relates to employment. The latest census has said, statistical census has said that people with disabilities, people who have challenged abilities, fall amongst the poorest and lowest income persons in the nation. And I would venture to say the world. No one is discriminated against any more in the job market than those who are physically, developmentally, and mentally challenged. The American Disability Act was intended to provide broad protection for the estimated 18% of this nation's population. But it has not been as successful as it could be. Why? Because of the imagery, the mindset of people as they think of consider folk who are physically, developmentally, and mentally challenged. If you don't think I'm worth the time of day, you don't give me the time of day. If you don't think I'm worthy to be promoted or to be included in every activity that society has made available for all of its citizens, then I'm excluded from everything, or virtually everything. I always got to make sure before I go out of the door whether where I'm going is accessible. Can I get into the door? If I get into the door, can I get up to where I need to be in terms of where the service or where the activity has been scheduled? I was supposed to go somewhere this weekend, down in Delaware. But from Pennsylvania to Delaware, the transportation is very limited. And once you get to Delaware, in particular southern Delaware, we're not talking about Wilmington, we're talking about Georgetown, way down at the tip of Delaware, the county seat of Sussex County, all the way down. Once you get there, then I had to find a way to get to the venue where the celebration was going to be held. And that would have been impossible because I can't fit this into a bus. I can't fit this chair into a car. And this is a heavy chair, so you cannot lift it. It's an hydraulic powered wheelchair. So you cannot lift it up into any place that you want to lift it. You have to make sure there's somebody there or a few people there that could manually lift this chair. So there's something I wanted to go to, a retirement of one of my former members of the church I pastored. I was her pastor for 9 years. I couldn't go. A few years back, I wanted to go to a wedding of really my goddaughter. But once again, because of transportation, because of even accommodations at a hotel and a motel, it just wasn't feasible. It was in the wintertime. It was kind of cold, icy, snowy, and I couldn't go. People don't understand the frustration. Pastor John Clark, God bless you. The frustration that we feel at times, we who have physical challenges. The frustration that we can't go the way we would like to go and go when we want to go and enjoy ourselves the way we would like to enjoy ourselves. I want to have fun. There's no reason why I would feel any differently about enjoying myself. I remember, I guess about a few months ago now, we went to Pastor John's inauguration of his church. He became a pastor. He was installed, and we were there at the service. It was a wonderful service. But then, you know, it's always a challenge to get down there, to maneuver around. Once you get inside the buildings that you have to go into, it's always more involved than just going. We're going to talk about, on Monday, we're going to talk about able-bodied privilege. Privileges that able-bodied people take for granted that we who have physical challenges have to consider when we do anything we want to do. We just cannot do it like everybody else can do it. I've had to send my wife ahead. Family functions and family things. Send her ahead and tell her, just bring me back a platter. Always tell her to do that. But this is, you know, this is a very vicarious life. And if you don't have something to ground yourself in, it can be a very frustrating one, to the point that you throw up your hands and give up and surrender. But I'm here to tell you, don't surrender. Press on anyhow. Hey, Bree Oglesby, God bless you. One of my students. Press on anyhow. It's not going to be easy, no. There's a lot of things in your life that you've been challenged by. Whether you're physically challenged in terms of disability or not, there are things in everyone's life that they are challenged by, that they are tested in. That people don't want to deal with you. Don't want to have anything to do with you. And sometimes you internalize this thing. Sometimes you personalize this thing. And if you don't watch it, it can stagnate you. It can defeat you. It can even kill your spirit of drive and ambition, of hope and aspiration. But let's get back to our point. The employment situation as it relates to people with disabilities. We need to talk about that for a minute. According to the U.S. Census on American Institute of Research, people with disabilities are paid less for the same work that their able-bodied peers get. For example, a person without a disability, if he gets $20,000 a year, his disabled or able-challenged person peer doing the same job now. I'm in a wheelchair, you're walking, you can do this, you can do that. I'm in a wheelchair, I'm blind, I'm deaf, I'm whatever the case may be. I have Down syndrome, whatever the case may be. You make $20,000, I make $16,000. Actually, $12,600 for the same job. You make 20, I make 12. If the able-bodied person makes $30,000, I make $18,800. Same job. Good afternoon, Deborah. For someone who makes $40,000, the able-bodied, the disabled person would make $25,200. You make $40,000, I make $25,000. For the person who makes $50,000, I'll make $31,500. For the person who makes $100,000, I'll make $63,000. Doing the same job. You could be a manager of a Forbes 500 company, and I could too. But I'm always going to make less than you. The same rank, the same position, the same job. But I will be paid less than you are. And it goes further. If you and I both have a bachelor's degree, I will be making $6,500 less than you in whatever job we choose to do. I got a bachelor's degree. I show my prospective employer my bachelor's degree. You show your bachelor's degree. I'll make $6,515 less than you. If I had some college, maybe 1, 2, 3 years of college, I'll make $4,615 less than you. If I had an associate's degree, we start off with high school, some college. Now we're going to the associate degree. If I have an associate degree, which means both of us went to school for 2 years, I will make $7,198 less than you. Bachelor's degree, which is now I finished a 4-year college program, I'll make $12,719 less than you. And what about a doctorate? What about a master's degree? If I have a master's degree and you have a master's degree, I will make $20,871 less than you. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? There's something about your abilities and how people perceive you. Remember we talked about words last week, on Monday actually. We talked about Words have meaning that create perception and impact perception. You're abled. You're normal. You're the way a man's supposed to be. You're the way a woman is supposed to be. So you're paid for just being able-bodied. You're not being paid for the work, because I'm doing the same work you're doing. But you're being paid because you're able-bodied. And I'm getting less paid than you because I'm not. It reminds me of the days of the African American experience. Good afternoon, Device Johnson. We're glad to have you. During the Civil Rights Movement, during the Jim Crow laws, during the Civil Rights time really from after the Civil War on, because before that we were slaves, many of us. And those who were free, they were included in this number. You could be doing the same work as a black man, a black woman. In fact, you could be doing actually more work than your white counterpart. And because of the color of your skin, you would never be comparable in pay with your white counterpart. He will always make more than you. And that's always been the case also with people who have physical, developmental, and mental disabilities. You could be under my training, and you'll still make more than me because you're able-bodied. I had an uncle. He was naturally African-American. He worked at Boeing Vertol. And many people came under him because he had so much experience and knowledge in engineering that the authorities, the managers, and the supervisors would have him teach trainees that were coming up. Eventually, the trainees would become his boss. And one time he asked them, if I'm good enough to train the man that will now become my boss, why couldn't I have been the boss? And they just chuckled and said, now, Oliver, you know better than that. You know why you can never be the boss. I had a job. I've had many jobs, but I had a job in particular. I'm thinking about one in particular. And I actually built the job up. I was hired to be the director, but then they dropped me down from that to be an assistant director. Fine. I was hired to be the assistant director of this child development center in New Jersey. And there were no children and only 2 other employees. I worked that thing and I worked that thing and I worked that thing until ultimately we had as many as 75 children in that center. 75 children in that center. And it was in a matter of months. In a matter of a couple of days, I had 1. And in a matter of a week, I had 10. And then on and on and on, I had 75 at one time. Got a little higher at one point. But that's what the steady group was, about 75 young people. Within a matter of months, 0 people were in there. There was no children at all. 3 staff members, myself and 2 others, and no children. I called. I hooked up with governmental agencies. I did everything I could do to build that center up. And then after about a year, I was dismissed. Because really the individual wanted someone who was able-bodied to fill my spot and so they trumped up a charge against me, which was not true. Anybody that knows, Rev, I don't curse. I don't. If you know me at all, you know me in school, you know me as your pastor, some of you know me as your teacher, some of you know me since I was a kid. We went to school together. You never heard me curse. I don't curse. I never have. I don't think you need to curse. I can express myself. I can get down and dirty and not say a curse word. I can argue. I can argue with the best of them and still not say a curse word. I don't have to do that. And I pride myself in that. And I'm glad that God gave me the ability to think and to be able to relate intellectually through words without curse words. But my employer said, well, we got to let you go because one of the parents came and said you cursed to their child. I said, I never cursed at the child. And you know me better than that. You've known me they've known me about 3 years. I worked for them about a year and a half, but they've known me for about 3 years. I said, you've never heard me curse to you. I'm a curse to a child. The only time I even spoke out of my own English language is when we would have prayer and I was speaking in tongues. And I said, well, now, but if you feel that way, if you feel that I would do that to a child, then you have to do what you have to do. If you have to dismiss me, then you have to dismiss me. I'm not gonna stand up here and argue with you about something I know I didn't do, something I don't do. Even now, it's hard pressed to ever hear me curse to anyone, let alone a child. Come on. But once again, this is the way, because I got to put her up on charges. The ADA says you cannot fire me for no reason, for no valid reason. I was doing my job. I built it. Now the thing went down, and you know why it went down a little bit? 2 reasons: because of who you are, the employer, and also because my suggestion, which was at one point I was bringing them in through buses and other places. They were going all over the city of Camden, all the way as far away as Camden. The center was in Audubon Park. I sent them away from all the way to Camden and back and all around the area, bringing children in. I had them on the voucher program and all of this type of thing, bringing kids in by the droves. I think at one point it was about 100 kids. And then they wanted to change that. A man said, I'm going to come in and I'm going to help you financially, but you have to, I don't want these welfare kids to come in here. Meaning he didn't want the black kids, in essence. And certainly not that caliber of black kids. He wanted only payers, people that actually paid out of their pocket. I said, now, there's nothing wrong with that because there was already some that were doing that. But I said, but we're being successful because of the voucher children. And we're being successful with the voucher children because we have the buses. That's how they did it. They eventually cut out the buses, which brought the children in because they didn't have any cars and all that. They were brought in. They commuted in from the city. But once they dropped the buses and restricted how many people on vouchers could come into the center started going down. Now it is no more center. It's gone. It's gone. All because, and I never got to pay as my peers got that was doing the same work I was. But all of that because of what people perceive us to be. We're slow. We're never going to be comparable to. And look, I'm going to tell you the truth. This is what boggles my mind. Even if your performance speaks for itself, I don't care what your preconceived idea is. You can look at what I'm doing to see what abilities I have, but even that doesn't count when your preconceived notion is that I'm always dealing with something less. I'm always dealing with a disadvantage whenever I have of someone who's physically, developmentally, or mentally challenged working for me. It's never the same. They can't move the way I would like to. I'm not here to run a marathon. I'm here to administrate the work that's going on inside a small, comparatively speaking, a new, comparatively speaking, child development center. I don't need to run up and down the halls. Or many a day I would sit in with the classes when the teachers weren't there. They didn't show up. I would sit in with the classes. Sometimes she didn't show up. I had to do her job. I've done that over and over again with so many people's jobs that I've been involved with. I didn't get nobody's salary, but I did the job. Many times, even at the school I taught at, and Bree can attest to this, I was the only teacher in the school. I was a high school teacher, And I taught everybody, because a lot of times none of the teachers showed up. And I'm the only teacher sitting up there teaching. High school, I'm teaching all of them. You know, but I didn't mind doing it because that's, you know, when I give my measure of devotion, I'm going to give my measure of devotion. I'm going to do the best I can. And that's what all of us should do. No matter what your job is, be the best at it that you can be. Sometimes it won't be appreciated, and sometimes it won't be rewarded, not by those people, but it will be rewarded in the end. So we see that people with physical challenges in the employment area are challenged first by their salaries, first by them not even being hired. Let's be real about it. Only 27% of the 50 million people in America that are disabled have jobs. Now we know that some are bedridden, some cannot function in a job setting. We understand that. But there are majority of the people who have physical, developmental, and mental disabilities, disabled challenges, or able challenged through their abilities. They are able to work. I don't believe anybody is disqualified from doing anything. I don't believe anybody's disqualified from doing anything. But that's the posture sometimes we take in the corporate world. Out of the 50 million people who have physical challenges and mental challenges and developmental challenges, 27% work, whereas their able-bodied counterparts is 65%. Most of us are either on SSI, which means we work somewhere along the way, but we were, because of our disability or because of whatever reason, we're either getting unemployment, we're getting SSI, or if you didn't work at SSDI rather, and if you didn't work at all, you're getting SSI. So you're on some kind of governmental program that supplements your income. That's what most of us think. Oh, what talent we're losing. Oh, what money this country is losing. Oh, what talent this world is losing. Because no one sees the ability behind the disability. That's why I like the title of my programs, Taking the Dis Out of Disability. We're taking the dis out. We're moving it all together. Because we're too prone to harp on and to focus on and to dwell on this part of the disability. We should flip it around and call it ability dis. Then we get ourselves together and concentrate on the ability. Tap into someone's ability. Tap into someone's gift. Tap into someone's talent. You'd be surprised. They are not the only ones that will benefit from you tapping into their ability. Someone tapped into the ability of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and we won World War II, and we got out of the Depression because somebody tapped into his ability. He had polio. He couldn't walk without heavy braces or without someone standing on either side of him. But someone saw beyond that he was the man for the hour. Moses was an 80-year-old man, fugitive, run away because he had committed a murder. And he also had a speech impediment that people couldn't hardly understand him. He thought he was disqualified to be used by God. But God saw something in him. And he tapped into that something in him. And it wasn't his articulation of speech. He allowed Aaron to be the spokesman. But the job that was done to liberate his people was given to Moses to do. On and on and on. Oh, what wonderful music we receive from Franny Crosby in the Christian world. Pass me not, O gentle Savior. Blessed assurance. Oh, what wonderful R&B we receive from from people like Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder. And the list goes on and on and on. One of the greatest scientists, Albert Einstein, was dyslexic. One of the greatest minds in modern science, Stephen Hawking. He has an advanced case of muscular dystrophy. Paul, the great apostle who wrote most of the New Testament, was an epileptic. He was an epileptic. And one of the greatest emperors of Rome, besides Julius Caesar himself, Claudius, had cerebral palsy. The world would have shrugged them off as being insignificant. And let me tell you something, every one of them had a challenge, because Claudius didn't get in there because everybody loved Claudius. They just hated Caligula more than they hated Claudius. They killed Caligula. Being the heir, he became emperor. Oh yeah, it's not always because you're our first choice, but when he became emperor. Hey Jan, how you doing? One of my members down there in Georgetown when I was pastoring there. In fact, I baptized her as my first act as the pastor. I baptized little Jana as a little infant baby. Good to see her. She's a mother now herself. But people have to understand. The ironic thing about it in terms of the business world, and I looked it up and I saw it and I was just taken aback. Now, everyone knows about Goodwill Industries. Yes, we know about them. They're the ones that take in the clothes and that people don't want, or, and they want to share it with other people. They take it to Goodwill. I had a cousin today that took some clothes down to Goodwill Industries in the city of Philadelphia. They're everywhere in this nation. They have most of their employees are people with physical, developmental, or mental challenges. They give people that would normally not get jobs. They mend clothes and make them usable again to people who couldn't buy right off the rack in some better store. So they do some good work. But they have one fault against them. In many instances, they do not pay their employees a minimum salary. They don't pay them a minimum wage. They don't pay them $7.50. They don't pay them that. In fact, some they pay as little as 22 cents. Oh, yes. A plant there in this state, Pennsylvania, pays their employees 22 cents. Another plant in Montana pays their employees 19 cents an hour. That's something, isn't it? Think about it. 19 cents an hour? How much would that be a year? And they always say before taxes. Keep that in mind. So you're paying 19 cents an hour, but that's your pay. That's the gross. It's not what you're taking home. So they might get a dime an hour. Clear. Some make as much as $2, some even $3. Nobody makes the minimum wage, however. Not many, I'll put it like that. Not many reach to the minimum wage level. And the paradox of it all is this is a technicality, a legal technicality, because in 1938, there was an act that said that you do not have to pay people with disabilities the same as you pay a person with an ability. They just have to get 75% of whatever that person was making. By 1966, it went down to 60% of what that person is making. In 1988, it went on down to nothing. You don't have to pay them any kind of equal pay for anything. Don't have to be near equal. There was no standard set. They get around that legally because of the law of 1938. And let me look it up because I do have it right here for you. I'm going to look that up for you real quick because I got the data right here for you. It's called the Fair Labor Standard Act. The Fair Labor Standard Act of 1938 that grants employers, the right to pay people with disabilities sub-minimum wages. What Goodwill is doing is completely legal because of the Act of 1938, the Labor Standard Act. The Fair Labor Standard Act. So who was it fair to? It looked like it's more fair to the person who's not disabled than the person disabled. Fair means it's fair. Fair means it's equitable. Fair means I want to get just as much as you get. That's fair. But Fair Labor Standard Act of 1938 gave the employers the right to pay their employees a sub-minimum wage. Now they made a stipulation. In 1938, they said 75% of what the able-bodied person makes. So you're getting 75% less than you're getting 75%. Within 75% of what they make. 1966, during the time of Lyndon Johnson, they dropped it down to 50%. You must make 50% of what the other person makes. So if I make $10, I can give you $5. That's 50%. 75% would be if I'm making $10, you must make $5. You're making $10, you must make $75. But then it went on down to 50%. So now my 100 drops down to 50. So you're making 100, I'm making 50. 1988, there was no stipulation. No longer. Listen, now keep in mind, this was 2 years before the ADA was passed. Remember, the ADA was passed in 1990. Remember that. This new stipulation within that Act of 1938 says there is no bar. The bar is clear. You can set whatever price you want to give to the person who has a physical, developmental, or mental challenge in their life. You set the standard. You set what you want to pay them. Don't have to be 50%. Don't have to be 100%. Don't have to be 75% rather. That was 100%. And that's something. So, if I give you 22 cents, I'm within my legal right. If I give you $2.50, I'm within my legal right. And it's at a time, keep in mind, this is at a time when Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders and Jill Stein now, and everybody, all the political candidates are saying, except Donald Trump, that we should increase the minimum wage to at least 12 and maybe 15 cents. We should increase the minimum wage to $15, $12. But it don't have to ever happen to them because the 1938 Act is still legally held up. And the amendments of it, there is no standard. The employer can pay his employer can pay the employee whatever he wants to pay the employee. So I could be getting $15 starting in January when Clinton becomes president if the Congress approves it. But I, as a physically challenged individual, I can still be getting my 22 cents. Because of the Fair Labor Standard Act. of 1938. Now, you know what the paradox of all that is? Guess who the president was in 1938? I know the Congress has to make the laws and all that, but guess who the president was? He did not veto this law. Well, at that time, the bill that made it law. Guess who the president was in 1938? Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt had polio. We just talked about it a moment ago. Deborah says, spread the knowledge. You have never lied, classmate. Tell me the mess. Always with something. I'm not lying to you. I'm trying to give you the facts. Sometimes things can be hard facts, a hard pill to swallow, but that don't mean you shouldn't swallow it. The best hard pill to swallow is the one to make you well the quickest. Baby boomers, that includes me and everybody in my category. From 1966 all the way down to 1946. Baby boomers, 46 to 66. We can feel our bodies getting a little weaker now. Some of us have developed disabilities. I was born with one, but some of us have become disabled in one way or another. Diabetes, high blood pressure, other things that will challenge us and have challenged us. We've seen classmates, Debbie, you and I, that have gone off the scene. Jana, you remember when I was pastor? Many of those people that we knew, they're gone now. They were members of that church, but I pastored there from 1987 to 1995. Oh, yes. This is how it is. Another curious fact to note, that the president of Goodwill Industries makes a salary of $1 million a year. And Goodwill Industries as a whole nets an income of $7 billion. They make $7 billion, and their president makes $1 million, and most of the executives make from $500,000 to $1 million. Yet some of the employees make as little as 22 cents. And the curious thing about this, my friends, is that the president of Goodwill, John Gibbon, is blind himself. He has a disability. So the president, who sat in the Oval Office when the Fair Standard Labor Act was made into law, had polio himself, and the present president of the Goodwill Industries is blind. Now, here's the explanation for this disparaging income thing that's going on in Goodwill, is that, well, if they didn't have this, they wouldn't have anything. If they didn't have this, they wouldn't have anything. It's almost like saying they should be glad for what they got. Don't complain, don't squawk. Many people don't. Because many of the people that work for Goodwill are just glad to be out and about and being a contributing member of society. Many believe that. But there are those within the company and those that are observing the company who also have physical, developmental, and mental challenges who say, no, it's a farce and it's a travesty. It's a farce and it's a travesty. The president can make $1 million, the company can take in $7 billion, and someone's paid 19 cents, 22 cents, $2 and something cents an hour. It's a travesty. There's no goodwill there. These kind of places, this is not the only kind of place like that. They're known as being sheltered workshops. and you get the money by how much you put out every hour. If you don't put out enough pieces every hour that you don't put out the amount of pieces that you are expected to put out, they decrease your income. Now keep in mind, some of these are physically challenged, which means their dexterity is poor. Some of them have Down syndrome, which means they have a developmental challenge, which means it takes a little while longer for them to comprehend, and then for them to do what they're supposed to do, but they're faithful. They come every day. They're more faithful than the ones we call able-bodied. They very seldom call out. May not be as fast as someone else because of their lack of dexterity or their lack of understanding what is required of them, and they're not able to do it as quickly as others. But they're faithful. They're smart enough. They're wise enough to commit themselves to the task before them with commitment and dedication. I'm going to tell you another problem, too. Another problem is this. Because I've been faced with this. My wife has been faced with this. Because she has lupus, cerebral palsy, and other orthopedic issues, as well as asthma. One of the problems is, if you work and make even a halfway decent salary, and you still are on SSI or SSDI, you're subject to be removed from those programs. Now, most people, and this is also statistics, most people that are on, and this is like couples too. I mean, I'm talking about one person, a couple, because one person would never get this kind of money. A couple normally makes $1,200 to $1,300, $13,000 rather, or $12,000 a year on these programs. Okay? $12,000 to $13,000 on these programs. The poverty level is $14,000. Now keep in mind. Now I said the average. Now some people make less than that. I'll put my business out in the street. We don't make $13,000 or $12,000 a year. But some make less than that. And if you're single, you make much less than that. So even getting any kind of job puts you in jeopardy. Robert asks, does the ADA override the Act of 1938 as far as equal pay is concerned? Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. It hasn't so far. Because, keep in mind, it's not an illegal act. It's still not considered an illegal act. Good afternoon, Allison. It's still not considered an illegal act. And so, as long as people are getting under that minimum salary and minimum wage, they're still working under that act. That's why they're doing it. That act must be repealed. See, a bill, you can have amendment on top of amendments, but the other one has to be repealed. Remember during Prohibition? I think it was the 19th Amendment that repealed the amendment that created Prohibition. See, you can't, you just can't say, I'm going to make this other thing so this other thing disappears. No. For example, I'm going to give you another example. After the Civil War, now keep in mind, Lincoln had supposed to have freed the slaves through the Emancipation Proclamation, which is not true because the Emancipation Proclamation only had power in the northern states because the southern states had already split from the Union and they had their own president and their own government. So because they had their own president and their own government, they were not obliged to heed anything that Lincoln and the United States government said. They had a Confederate government. After they were defeated by the Union Army and the Union and the powers to be in Washington, the Congress enacted the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendments. One freed the slaves. One allowed them to have free access and be citizens of the country. See how they go each step at a time? One freed slaves. They did not give them citizenship until you got to the 14th Amendment. So it's a process. That's what we're trying to say here. It's a process. Just because you have the ADA does not negate the fact that the Fair Standard Act is still in place. The Fair Labor Standard Act is still in place. You have to repeal it. And so what we need to do as conscientious people who have physical disabilities, those who have an affinity for those who have physical and developmental and mental disabilities, we who want to champion the cause, we who want to advocate the cause, this is one cause we can look into. I think we need to look into this. I was flabbergasted, to be honest with you, Robert and Deborah and others who are interested. I was flabbergasted. I was surprised to learn that there was actually a law called an act that allowed companies to pay their disabled employees less, significantly less in many instances, than their able-bodied peers. And it's all legal because that's what the act said. See, a lot of things in this country that we don't even know what's on the books. We really don't know what's on the books. Almost like what Donald Trump said the other day, and I'm through after this. He talked about, well, I didn't do anything illegal by not paying taxes. I just went through the loopholes. Man, we got to seal up these loopholes. Put some tar and do something with them. Seal them up, because these loopholes, these little technicalities that we call it, has brought our country almost to the abyss. Has done people with physical, developmental, and mental challenges to the abyss. We're more on the outside now than ever before. And if we don't watch it, we're going to get even further out. People's attitude has not changed one iota. They used to call Sunday morning between 11 and 12 the most segregated time in the world. White people go to white church, black people go to black church, Koreans would go to their church, everybody would go to their own little church. It was the most segregated time in the nation, and probably in the world, because most people worship something, or they have some kind of faith. Well, I go on to say this, that 11 to 12 is the most exclusive, not inclusive, exclusive time in the world. We don't go anywhere because no one welcomes us. There's not many buildings that are accessible to us. Not even church buildings, not even mosques, not even synagogues are accessible to us. Not many. And then if they're accessible to some groups, they're not accessible to others. You may have a ramp, but do you have an interpreter for those who are deaf? You may have an interpreter for those who are deaf, but do you have Braille Bibles and reading material for those who are blind? Do you have special rooms where people who have autism and other behavioral issues may be able to be treated with calm patience? They can be taught to, they can read at their own pace, they can have activities. Do we have these things that will make everyone feel as though they're a part of it? Heaven's not just for the able-bodied. God did not come here to save the world and exclude those who have physical disabilities and mental disabilities and developmental disabilities. We got to stop this foolishness. I have a right to get on the bus and go to my appointments. I have a right to have a job and be paid the same as my coworker beside me who's able-bodied. I have a right to go into a restaurant and be able to get in and get a seat and be treated like a human being by the waitress, not have her ask my aide or my wife or my daughter or my sister or my brother what I want when I'm sitting right there. I have a right. I have a right to to choose what kind of house I want to live in, what kind of apartment I want to reside in with my wife. But I happen to say, well, does it have a ramp? Can I get inside? Do it have bars? Do they have bars so that when I get into the bathtub, I can get in without falling? Every one of us has a right. Black people fought for years, and I'm African American, so I know about that fight too. Fought for years for justice and equality. To sit at a counter in a restaurant, to sit in the front of the bus, to go into a hotel and get the best room, not to drink at a Negro only or white only fountain, not to be afraid to be lynched, beaten, sicked on by dogs, burned, churches burned and bombed. They had a right to go to church. They had a right to sit on the bus. They had a right to sit at the counter. They had a right to go in a movie, not to get into the balcony all the time. We have a right. Japanese, during World War II, were interned in prison camps. Italians weren't interned in prison camps. Everybody is everybody. Everybody's the same. Everybody has every right to be free, liberated, and have all the amenities and all of the respect that the world needs to offer us. Hello, cousin. My dear cousin Lisa. We have a right. You're not doing us a favor by being right. You're not doing us a favor by giving me what is due me. America says it's my right. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is my right. One of the signs of the Declaration of Independence. Stephen Hopkins penned his signature underneath John Hancock's signature with a quivering hand. Because you see, Stephen Hopkins has cerebral palsy. You don't know. You don't know what you do when you deny someone their rights. I'm going to tell you, you don't know what you're doing. First of all, by denying the rights of everyone to a fair playing field, you're lessening your own life. That means you'll never tap into what I know. You'll never give me, and I'm not talking about me, Gerald Scott, I'm talking about me in the largest sense of the word. You'll never really know what gifts and talents that individual has. Maybe there's somebody out there who's in a wheelchair who you never think would be able to do it. Has the know-how to cure cancer. Something that you suffer with. But you don't give them a chance because you're in a wheelchair. Maybe there's a blind man that can tap into something that you need in life. John Milton was blind when he wrote Paradise Lost, one of the greatest literary books in the world. Fanny Crosby, the writer of those hymns I talked about, she was blind. Harriet Tubman led those 300 African Americans out of the South into the land of liberation with epilepsy and narcolepsy. You don't know just how valuable just how special, not in the sense of how we think special to mean, but special in the sense of gifts, talents, and abilities. People that we call disabled really are. We're not really disadvantaged, not in the strictest sense of the word, and we certainly aren't disqualified from doing anything. There's a whole lot we can do. There's a whole lot that we can share. But because we've never been given the opportunity, the world is the lesser for it. Well, God bless you, my dear hearts. On Monday, we're going to be dealing with the able-bodied privileges. The able-bodied privileges. On Monday, 3 o'clock. Remember, my wife's program's on Friday, tonight, in fact, at 7 o'clock. Tune her in. Go to Teresa Jeanette Scott on her Facebook page. All the information will be given to you there. I believe she normally posts on my page as well, the links that'll get you there. My page is Gerald Yahshua Care Scott. You can either get to either one of those pages, and you will be blessed by tuning in. And remember, next week on Monday, we will be having another program at 3 o'clock. Remember also, I do have a YouTube channel. You just get into it by going into the browser on YouTube and typing in G. William Scott. This program and other programs are there. And we hope and pray that this weekend will be a blessed one for you. God's not through with you yet. In fact, in truth, He's just begun. Amen. God bless you. Talk to you soon.